In the last video, I discussed and explained sonata form, and we went through all the different parts that we see here. Let me just scroll back a little bit. We see the exposition, and we see the difference there between the first subject and the second subject. The first subject is often more vigorous and rhythmic, and the second subject is you have a modulation in the exposition, and it's more tuneful and less vigorous. And then we had the development. One of the questions today is which material is used to form this development. And then we have the recapitulation. We don't have any modulation there. It stays in the same key. And then we also went through this whole little diagram to show you exactly the different parts, the basic plan for the sonata form. Now your assignment 49, the first movement of Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik is designed in sonata form. Mozart also calls this a serenade, evening music, which like the divertimento, music to divert or entertain, was of a lighter character than a symphony and often intended for performance in the open air. So we see here in the sheet music that it's explained. Every little part is explained. We see the first subject there, and we have a part A and a part B and a part C. And the bridge, I started in G major. When I have the bridge, I move to D major, and the second subject is in the dominant key, and I know that the second subject is more tuneful and less vigorous, and it's in the dominant key here, so it moves to D major. And I have a part A and a part B. The part B is repeated. And then I have a codetta, the second subject, part C. It's a codetta, a miniature coda, and it ends the exposition, and then I will have a repeat. The development, I know that one of the questions will ask you about the development. I can see there all the modulations. Then I have a linking passage, and it works back to G major. Then I have a repeat, but everything is now in the key of G major. So all the parts are there. So listen to the music and then answer the questions. I already gave you the answer of how does the second subject contrast with the first subject. We know the character of the first subject and we know the character of the second subject. And then in the exposition, the second subject will modulate, so you need to name that key. And in the recapitulation, it will stay in the tonic key, so name that one as well. Now the most tricky, the tricky question this time is that you have to find out and work out the development section, the musical ideas that you find. And what's nice here, I showed you that all the parts are marked tam, param, parararararam. So if in the development that you see that part, tam, param, tarararararam, for instance, that you can write first subject part A. So go through all the different parts that you see in the exposition to make a list of what is used in the development. And describe the orchestra. So will I have just strings playing? Will I have other parts playing? And then you can answer this on the worksheet. So let's listen to the music. Part C. Now the bridge, and it moves to D major. Second subject, you hear it's more tuneful and not as rhythmic and vigorous as the first one. Second violins, repeat that pattern. Part B, you hear it's very tuneful. And part B is repeated. Now that codetta. And I repeat that. Part B, first subject. First subject, part C. The bridge, I go to my dominant key. Second subject, part A, in the dominant key. Repeat. Pum, 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 pum. Second subject, part B. Part B repeated. That's the codetta. And now you have to work out the parts that I have in my development. That part, find that. So I go through different keys there. That part I also know. And there I have my recapitulation. And now everything will stay in the key of G major. First subject, part C. The bridge is now altered because it needs to stay in the tonic key. And you see all those pizzicato markings that I have there. Also, they're not pizzicato, the tremolo markings, sorry. All those little lines there. So now it's in the tonic key. Second subject, part B. Part B, repeated. And now that codetta is now longer to form a coda. Coda is the Latin word for tail, so it's the end. I'm sure that you can do all these questions. Now we will also look at the concerto today, the classical concerto featuring a solo instrument in competition with the orchestra group from the Baroque solo concerto. Go back to your Baroque videos and you will find the solo concerto and the concerto grosso, all those different genres there. It does 3 movements, fast, slow, fast. And it's correspond to the movements of the symphony, but without the minuet. The first movement, though, is in modified sonata form, which begins with a double exposition. One exposition for the orchestra alone, presenting the main musical material all in the tonic key, followed by the entry of the soloist and a second exposition. So the soloist does not start playing immediately. We first have the exposition presented by the orchestra, but they stay in the tonic key. And then the soloist will enter with a second exposition, now with a second subject group in the related key. A composer often holds back one or more themes from the first exposition in order to add interest and variety when these are introduced during the second time. Then follows the development section and recapitulation shared by the soloist and the orchestra. Towards the end of the recapitulation, the orchestra pauses and the soloist plays a cadenza. And that is the passage where I also have done the word cadenza in class, and that is where the soloists display brilliance of technique. Originally, the soloist was expected to improvise a cadenza on the spot, and later on composers began to write out the music they expected to be played. A cadenza usually ends with a trill, and that is the signal for the orchestra to re-enter to play the coda. So what I have in a concerto is I have a soloist that shines and it's in competition with the rest of the orchestra. And the sonata form, if I have sonata form, I sometimes have a double exposition where the orchestra starts first before the soloist enters with a second exposition, and then I have a cadenza. Now our question for this week, what we have to do is assignment 50. Listen to the first movement of a concerto by Mozart. For example, piano concerto number 23 or the horn concerto, concerto number 3. And listen out and note the effect made by the delayed appearance of the soloist. So I would say something in the line of people are they are waiting for that moment when you will hear this brilliant soloist start playing. The variety of musical material shared by the soloist and orchestra. It's like an African call and respond. I have a dialogue because they share a lot of the musical material between them. So listen out for that. There you will not have an answer. I just want you to write that you have heard the variety of the musical material. The contrasts between passages where the soloist is heard alone or quietly accompanied by the orchestra, and loud orchestral tutti passages where everybody plays. So we have places where the soloist shines and where the orchestra just quietly accompanies the soloist, and then where everybody is in on the action. And then also sections of musical dialogue between the soloist and the orchestra, and the musical and dramatic effect of the soloist's cadenza based on the themes of the movement, followed by the orchestral coda. So you don't have a lot of things to write on the worksheet. Just indicate that you have heard all the things that they ask. Good luck with your assignment, especially with assignment 49, and I hope that you understand everything there.